Can I just ask,
No.
what is our followership? I mean, I have not checked anything. I mean, literally, I just show up, right? You know, I used to check stuff for about 6 months or so,
Yeah.
and then it was like, from then on, I checked it every month, and I think after a year, I just kind of forgot about it, right? How do we do?
That's kind of what I did.
Yeah, because I asked you one time, and you said, "Well, yeah, I'll have to get back to you," and you never did.
What made it complicated is we switched services on our podcast side. But
Right.
I don't know. I'm totally confused because we did a couple Indian language movies, and we have a huge following there.
Right.
But only
Right.
when we do Indian language movies, so I don't really know. But
And son of a gun, guess what?
what's that?
We're gonna do it now.
Oh yeah, speaking of that,
Speaking of that,
we did a movie called Stree, 2018.
right?
It's basically in a small town of Chanderi, I think it was. The men folk live in fear of an evil spirit named Stree who abducts men in the middle of the night, based on an urban legend, Nale Ba, that went viral in the 1990s.
That is a terrible description of the film.
It is.
Um, what I like about this is
That's the IMDb description, which is always bad.
Yeah, always bad. It has a first of all, it has an amazing look, right? I mean, it is very bright, but it's very controlled. I mean, it is really, it's a great DP, and I think the acting was of a much higher caliber than I've seen in some of the Indian films. I mean, really, most of these, had they been speaking English, would have been great, great here. I mean, it's, but
Well, that's the problem. Is I read the subtitles and I was still happy.
yeah, no.
Oh, by the way,
I mean,
well, going back to the look of it, I
yeah,
was watching. I think it was, I don't know what it was, Scripps News or something. But I was watching it and they were talking about how dark movies have gotten in the past, and so they had a couple directors, DPs on and stuff.
It wasn't dark in the nights, right?
And they were talking about what's that show?
RRR.
Lord,
Oh, the one with the dragons.
yeah. I don't know why I can't think of it. I'm totally blanking on the movie or the show, but it was on HBO.
George R.R. Martin's show, right?
Oh, it was Game of Thrones. There are all these DPs talking about how movies are dark now, and it's kind of a creative choice in a lot of situations. But
And I am sorry.
there's people like me that like lighting, and I think that I want to see what's happening.
You know what? All of them were trying to stop
Yeah.
the 90s and 80s thing of lighting at night, right?
Well, one thing was Jurassic Park. So they showed an example of the first Jurassic Park at night. It looked like the moon was really bright, or was really close to, and you could see the shining off the dinosaur. And then they showed one that was the more recent Jurassic Park, and it was almost pitch black. And
right. It's I hate it. I can't see what the hell everybody's talking about.
I'm with you. Yeah, I'm with you. Well, see, it's a movie, so you want to be. So movies are the point of a movie for me. That's why I like Spielberg, because I like to be taken away by a story. I know it's a fantasy. It's not reality. I don't need it to look exactly like reality, which is what I think people are doing. They're trying to make it look realistic.
Yeah, exactly. But the thing is yeah. I mean, look at a film like Evil Dead compared to just almost anything that's done now. I mean, the nights are bright. You know what's going on, and it still somehow looks like night.
Well, yeah.
I just don't get this thing of going so dark that I wind up just literally losing parts of the story.
Exactly. Well, you also in horror movies, for example, you lose all the the beautiful lighting behind the fog and stuff, and behind the trees,
Right. Well,
the moonlight.
I think part of it is this: is that everybody thinks that they're going to release it in a theater, and in a theater, it's a little bit different because it's big enough that it negates that, needing to like squint to see. But the thing is very few people actually get to see their films anymore in the theater, and so you wind up trying to see what's going on in your living room when they didn't bother to light anything at all.
Well, you can change your settings, but
yeah,
I mean,
right.
Who's going to do that, right?
But why are you going to do that? And then everything else you watch is completely blown out.
You're like, why is the Masked Singer so bright?
It's like they're in my living room. I don't understand it. Game of Thrones. I've heard that.
They show the scene that was like I didn't watch Game of Thrones. I'm like, I guess I need to watch it, but I'm one of the ones that haven't watched anything yet. But they showed a clip. One of the last episodes, they had a big battle scene, and they showed it. It was like pitch black.
It's absolutely pitch black. I mean, my son really got into it, and I remember walking through his living room. He had the living room, the full big TV up above the fireplace, and watching it and going. So I'm like, "What are you watching?" And they're all leaning forward, like, I think that it's Game of Thrones.
What are you listening to?
Yeah. What are you listening to?
The kids were all gathered around the radio listening to the Lone Ranger.
Everybody. Well, it's I think FDR is going to come back on or something.
Well, we used to call that in radio. We called that theater of mind.
Yeah, I think that we can just call that being a lazy DP. But what do I know?
Well, his argument's probably like, well, I made a creative choice to make it dark, and then somehow the transfer was messed up, and it made it darker than it was supposed to be.
Yeah, I love to hear about the transfer. It's I didn't balance the film. I didn't do the color balance.
Oh, they blame it on the colorist. Yes, I didn't think about that.
Yeah, exactly. That's what happens.
But yeah, so I'm with you. I'm old school with that. I think, just like you are.
But I really like the look of this. I mean, I was impressed with the look. The
color.
The intention that was that it was going to be a funny film, right? A comedy horror. There was one spot that it did kind of let me down, and it kind of surprised me, because considering that they had so much of it dialed in so well, I thought that the creature was a little bit weak.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Well, especially this one scene where the creature was floating across the room or something.
Well, floating.
Well, it was more like it was almost on a rail.
But what I was going to say was this. I was going to say the really interesting thing is that now they've actually created visual effects that can look worse than swinging things in on a wire back in the day. And I couldn't figure out why they did that,
Well, it's like that movie. What was that horror movie we saw? It was The Witch, I think. Or one of those Insidious, I think. Anyway, but it was like The Witch or something, but it was all digital, and it was just not scary at all because it was digital. Because it wasn't tangible. Like, it didn't feel like you could reach out and grab it. Like,
right, exactly. But there was something about this that was it was a little off.
Well, the face. When they showed the face
was a little off. I mean, I just thought to myself that, if we had gone through this much trouble, but I do, and I do understand that to a certain extent, they had to write a fine line because there had to be a type of beauty there and a type of repulsion, right? But at the same time, it was it was kind of just a grease paint kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? It was like really, really, really old school. You know.
Well, things
So,
run when you're underground or dead or whatever.
but other than that, and the thing is to its credit, the story itself didn't necessarily actually kind of depend on the creature being that horrible, because there was a certain extent to where we did have to eventually have a certain amount of sympathy for it, right?
It was kind of like a movie from the 30s where you have some sympathy for the monster.
Right.
But
right. I mean, there was actually kind of a
it was kind of handled that way.
Frankenstein element to it, you know. But
well, it was a pretty lady that was never respected in life, right? So
that's exactly what it is. But I'm telling you, I still have like the utter respect for it, and I bravo.
Well, I really liked the actors. I thought the actors were great.
Yeah, I thought
like you said, I think it was a little bit above par. I think these are some of the better actors, and I really don't know, but I think a lot of them, I've seen their names and other things, so I know that they're, big actors.
Exactly, really good.
And this writing team is been on a lot of things too, by the way.
What one thing that you have to do is you have to hold on at the very end, because I don't think I'm giving anything away when I say it breaks out into one of the craziest dance sequences.
I was like wanting that to happen in the middle somewhere. Like that movie that you hated that I loved, Anna and the Apocalypse.
Right.
I thought was great because it broke out in song all the time. But this one waited to the very end when the credits were rolling, basically.
By the way, I don't think I hated that movie. I mean, we are talking about RRR. Right?
You didn't like it? No, I'm talking about Anna and the Apocalypse.
Oh,
I was going way back to that one because it was like RRR. They worked it into they worked the songs really well in, but Anna was kind of more jarring.
Yeah. Well, no, I think the thing in the end was just an add-on. Let's go see if we can spoof a Bollywood.
Well, we haven't even talked about that, but this is a Hindi movie, so technically, I think this is well, I don't want to put labels on things because I get in trouble for that, but it's Northern India. I'm not going to name any names, but it rhymes with Hollywood. But anyway, I think this is the Northern style, which you can see at the end there where they start dancing. That's all I'm saying. I don't think they were trying to spoof it. I think that was actually legit.
Oh, is it legit part of it?
I think so.
But we weren't even in a set that was related.
Well, this was shot in the north of India.
Yeah, but I mean that set was just.
Well, actually, the street scenes where they're going through that little archway.
Yeah,
that was actually a real place. That was a little town in India, and I think it was close to where this urban legend was supposed to be set in. So
really. Yeah,
so I thought that was interesting. I looked it up. It was like it was actually a real place. They shot a location most of it. But one thing I learned about this watching all Indian movies is that Americans have short attention spans because this was over 2 hours.
Right.
And I sat through it, but you see what I'm saying? Like RRR was like.
oh yeah, that was 3 hours.
This seemed pretty long, but I held on till the end. I do like how they changed the what was I going to say about the villain? Oh yeah, no. One thing I like about this is that there's obviously a nice character arc of the villain, which you hardly ever see. It's like he starts off one way, and then at the end you're thinking something else,
and kind of becomes the other. And if you hold on, the end of the film is really kind of dynamite, right?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And the guy that got the guy that was taking control of, I can't remember the character's name, but he was my favorite one, the goofy guy.
Oh right, yeah,
Jana.
Yeah.
His character's name was Jana.
Yeah, Jana. It was really cool. Yeah. It's but I have to say, absolutely enjoyable. I enjoyed it greatly. I would probably do a 4.0 on this. I mean, I really would.
No, I think it's a 4.0. In fact, I liked it for the same reasons I would say I like Nightmare on Elm Street 4, because it's a lot of action and there's comedy in there.
Yeah, there's comedy. There's action. I mean,
I still like 3 more, but
the
anyway.
story is kind of easy, but it has a nice wind up. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, yeah.
So there we go. Did I rate it? No, I give it like I'm at a 4, probably 4.2, probably a little bit extra for the nice red dress and stuff. I don't know what I'm talking about.
Well, yeah, and at the very end, everybody was switching clothes anyway in the dance sequence.
Well, one thing I like about Indian cinema so far is I really like the costuming, and I like the set design. I like all that stuff. I like how everything looks, and it's different than American cinema. So different, but. And then, of course, I don't understand a lot of the references. I mean, there's a lot of cultural references I probably don't understand, but I still enjoy it.
I'm enjoying it more and more. I really am, and we seem to be on kind of a journey towards these films, and I'm all for it. Yes, sir, mister.
But I want to see some more, but I want to see some dance scenes in the middle of a horror scene.
Of course you do. Of course you do.
Once again, Anna and the Apocalypse is a great movie.
It is not. Thank you very much.
See, that's one that I haven't changed my mind on. I mean, sometimes...
Yeah, I know. You should.
Oh, well.
Hey, listen, I had great hopes for that movie, though. I really did. It's just, I just don't.
You just don't like entertainment. I get it.